welcome to all of our friends in music education. We are so glad that you guys are here. My name is Cameron Jenkins, and it is an exciting time to share this lunchtime chat with you. I want to say welcome to all of our college band directors, literally from all over the world. Hey, we would love to know where you're from. If you're joining us live on Zoom or on Facebook, please let us know in the chat where you're watching from. And even those of you that are watching this later on any platform, just let us know in the comments. Let us know where you're from. It's cool to see the connections that's been made all over the world. Well, happy Wednesday to you, my friends. And I'm so excited to have my brother, my friend, Dr. Scott Edgar with us here this evening, this morning, this afternoon, depending on where you're watching in the world. Dr. Edgar, come on in here, my friend, and say hello.
Cameron, thanks so much. You know, we've had 2 great days of sessions. The first one, we were talking to middle school directors. Yesterday, we were talking to high school directors. Today, we're talking to the folks who are working with students who are determining their life path, determining that for the first time, maybe experiencing a little bit of freedom. When we talk about the challenges of the last year, I think our students who are in college have experienced this profoundly. College has been some of the best days of my life, right? Well, that's been ripped from so many of our students. So today we're going to talk to college band directors, college music teacher educators who are working with students as they navigate some of the most powerful times of their life that have been nothing short of challenging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those friends, we're excited to invite some of them on here live with us even now. Come on, all of our college friends. We got friends from the Marines that's with us here. So I'm excited to have everybody be a part of this conversation. I want to give them an opportunity to say hello, say where they're from, what they do, and just to get this thing started. Let's start with Dr. Arau, then we go to Dr. Jones, then Dr. Spurlin. Come on in here, my friend, Dr. Rao.
Hey, what a thrill to be amongst all of you today. Thank you for joining us from around the country. And Cameron and Scott, thanks so much for putting this together. My name is Dr. Matthew Rao. I'm the Associate Professor of Music, Chair of Music Education, and Associate Director of Band at Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin. Happy to share some ideas with you today.
Absolutely. Dr. Jones.
How y'all doing? Good, wherever you are, morning, afternoon, evening, or good day, good night. Dr. Kelvin Jones, currently serve as the director of the LSU Tiger Marching Band and also assistant director of bands here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Nice, nice. Dr. Sperlin.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Sperlin. I'm professor of music and marching band director at Auburn University, and look forward to sharing some thoughts with you today.
Absolutely. Let's keep it rolling. Dr. Simon, Dr. Melago, Dr. Hand, come on in here, my friends.
Hey, everybody. How are you? My name is Carrie Ann Simon. I am the director of bands and assistant professor of music here at Mississippi Valley State University. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Kathy Melago, division head for music education at Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania. And like everyone else, super happy to be here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Caroline Hand. I'm Associate Director of Bands at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, and thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So glad to have you. And we have a friend with us from the Marines. Come on in here, my friend, and say hello.
Greetings to all. Pleasure to be in your midst. My name is Andres Navarro. I'm the officer in charge and director of the 1st Marine Division Band in Oceanside, California. Thank you for having me. A pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to all of our friends that are watching live with us and even those that will watch this later. You know, this is a huge task, Dr. Edgar, to lead someone, whether it's music, no matter the medium, but it's just hard to do. And it takes a lot. And one of the things you have to do is you have to recognize when things are going well, because last year it was a lot of things that took place. And we want to make sure that we highlight what went well. So that's our first question for the panel. And that is, what went well in your particular area? I would love to start with my friend, Dr. Hand, then go to Dr. Jones and just figure out what went well this past year.
Yeah, thank you, Cameron. So, I mean, first of all, I think that here at Ball State, our students were really great at adapting. They coped, they were flexible, and frankly, we just made it through last year.
Yes.
You know, there were some things that I think that were products of the pandemic that were useful to our students. One thing was students got more downtime, and so the schedule is less strenuous in a way. And I think considering all other taxing things on mental health, that was a good thing for mental health last year. We were actually able to do some performances with a lot of modifications, of course, last year. So the marching band did our first ever in a long time showcase performance that was just marching band for marching band fans, and is actually now probably going to become an annual thing for us because it was so successful.
Nice.
We've been live streaming our concerts here for a long time, but I think we got more recognition for that because people were seeking out ways to try to connect with music somehow. Last year. And so I think more people found out about our live streaming capabilities. So that's some things that went well for us last year.
Absolutely. And I cannot go without mentioning that Ball State University, has a special place in my heart because that's where I was introduced to Music for All. That was my first time at Summer Symposium. Got a chance to meet you, Dr. Hand, and the amazing staff that's there at Ball State. So thank you again for being here. And it's so cool to hear of all those nuances of what you're going to continue even after the year that we had this past year. Dr. Jones, come on in, my friend. What went well there at LSU?
Yeah, in a weird way for us, student morale was really good. Similar to what Caroline was saying, was just going in, so many different changes happening. And I'm one of those, I'm a planner, and all right, plan A doesn't work, plan B doesn't work, C, D, E, F, and I get frustrated. And then for me, it's that self-reflective, the student's perspective, are you disorganized? But it's just, we'd have a whole new term, patience and flexibility. But throughout all of that, the students' morale was awesome. And even for my end of the year surveys, a lot of them talked about they love their experience so much, they want to come back and experience a real season because they had a good season in spite of this. And my concern was, this is so not what we normally would do. What would be their experience behind it? But that was actually something that osmosis-wise went really well. For us as a staff, finding alternative ways to be effective. Like, I think every orientation is going to be via Zoom versus how we normally would do it, and everybody's coming in. It just made things more convenient. Even how we did auditions, we moved all those to just be virtually, submit a YouTube video. We'll watch it on our own time versus having 4 or 5, 10 days throughout the summer. We're dedicating and reallocating time for that. And just also for us inwardly looking at different perspectives of what's needed and what's not. Just because we've done something the same way the past 10, 15, or 3 years, and now it's quote unquote tradition, there are different ways you can still be effective and to do things from a different perspective.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Doing things a little slightly different way and taking it with you even as you move forward. I want to hear from my friend, Dr. Spurlin. I also want to hear from Andres. What's going on? What's going on in your world that went well this past year? Dr. Spurlin?
Not a lot different than my other two colleagues. I thought the attitude of our students was really, really good. One thing we talked about is, let's think about the things that we can do, not focus on the things we can't do, because there were certainly a lot of those. So the things that we could do, I felt like they tried to do them really well and kept a pretty good positive attitude about it throughout. We were able to do some performance, nothing on the field at a game, but we did some video performance stuff that the students enjoyed, have an opportunity to march and so on, that, gave them something to work towards. So, that all worked out well. And then much like Kelvin said, we started using some digital resources that maybe we hadn't utilized at all or as much in the past that really were effective for us. And we are still using them in the summer. It's enhanced our communication certainly over the summer with our leadership team and with others. So that was definitely a positive. And there are those that will certainly hang around for us. Our students did a pretty good job at following our protocols and staying relatively healthy. I mean, we had people quarantine and they got sick, but for the most part, they were very mature about it and understood the need for that. And I felt like in many ways, they made a sacrifice for other people in our society and on our campus. And I was really proud of them for that.
That's so good. And that sacrifice comes from a place of empathy where they understand, okay, I'm doing this for the greater good, which is so huge. Andres, my friend, come on in.
Yes, sir. So I will begin to answer that from a macro level on behalf of the entire marine music field. I'm just glad to see that all 10 bands all 10 field bands were able to remain relevant and remain engaged, in this case, via social media submissions and, kind of exploring new ground, things that we hadn't done in the past. So I was able to see that from our sister bands, more specifically on a micro level to the 1st Marine Division Band. The best thing that happened is we took some time to sharpen our sword. So we came back to the bat cave, rearranged some things, kind of reinforce some basic tenets that drive every scope of service we provide the American people and the military realm as well. So what could have been a paradigm of victimhood, it turned into a victor. We come out as victors over this, completely unwilling to succumb to what could have been chaos. So we just came back to the fold, again, sharpened our sword, invested in our musical abilities, and kind of reinvigorated a sense of commitment to the American people, for we have missed them so much in performance and patriotic, just contributions that we do on a yearly basis. Things just opened up for us. We just had our very first concert on the 4th of July in Disneyland. And trust you me, that was as exciting for us as it was for everyone else. So it's just great to be back in the fold. Great to be fighting with you one more time.
Absolutely. I love that. My goodness, Dr. Edgar, we missed out, friend. We should have been at Disneyland. Taking it
happiest place on earth. Let's go.
Exactly. Absolutely. Friends, we want to hear from you. Those that are watching live, we want to know in the chat what went well for you and your program this past year. Definitely want to hear from our friend, Dr. Melago, and then Dr. Simon and Dr. Arau. What went well in your area?
So I loved the ability to be flexible and to change things up in terms of how we deliver instruction. And I'm just going to share one. This is probably my favorite moment of the entire school year. And it happened in my 150-person non-music major class, and which was synchronously online. So the student Sam came to me, and asked by email, could I share a song that I wrote? I started writing music during quarantine. And he sent it to me, and my husband and I listened to it. He's getting ready to release it. And we were like, this is a good song. So I said to him, do you want, let's share it with the class if you're open with that. And we talked about how that would happen. So he talked a little bit about it. I played it over Zoom. But the thing is, and I don't know if you all experienced this, but I had embedded it in the PowerPoint. So I couldn't get to the chat, because if you touch the chat, it stops the YouTube video.
Right.
So I see the chat just going crazy, and I have no idea what's happening in it, what is being said. And I'm thinking, please let it be good stuff, And after the video was done and I looked at it, it was just like hundreds of comments, just praising his music and what he had done. And so the student later, they did a little interview of him for our blog for our college. And he talked about how in an online class, you wouldn't expect that you would feel such a connection with your classmates, but because of the chat, which, normally we don't really have that opportunity in a 150-person live class for everyone to just be chiming in about their thoughts. He talked about how he was trying to hide the smile on his face the whole time, but he just felt so proud inside. And I just thought that was such a special moment. And that's something that wouldn't have happened in the regular class. Now I'm trying to figure out how we can make chat happen in the real world, but that was just a special moment for me. And I think that there were opportunities for students to participate in ways that just made it possible for other students to have a voice, maybe that might not have in another way in regular classroom setting.
Dr. Melago, I love that so much. My heart is turning cartwheels. One of the things we use in student leadership training is just index cards and a bucket. So when somebody is presenting, you have your index card, you write them a comment, drop it in their bucket, and it gives them a chance after the fact to read all that good stuff. And like you said, the same thing that happened online with you. That's huge. I love it. I love it. Dr. Simon, what about you, my friend? What has gone well this past year?
Right. So a lot of things my colleagues have said, happened for us. In the interest of saying something that hasn't been said, one thing my students, I'd like to think that my students did well at is problem solving. This whole pandemic thing, this whole virtual school, virtual band, virtual everything really sharpened problem solving skills for my students, both musically and within their own classes. What do you do when the internet goes down? How do you get your classes in? How do you get your work in? How do you contact your teachers when they're not available. So they had to figure out ways how to do that. Also, we did kind of we couldn't rehearse like we did before. We couldn't spend a lot of time with rehearsing, and we still had performances. We incorporated the whole pass off culture that we have in high school. And, I taught high school, and I've never done that in college. I've never had to do that, but the kids actually, I'm sorry, not the kids, this is college. My students actually, they really liked it, the whole pass off thing, because they remembered it from high school, and they can submit things on their own time. So they have time to really get things solid and really get things together, kind of going back to the basics like they mentioned earlier. So I think that helped my students musically and, like I said, with their other classes.
Absolutely. Like Andres was mentioning about going to the basics, and even Dr. Jones about online submissions is just going to change the landscape of how we do things moving forward. Dr. Rao, my friend, come on in here. What went well last year?
Hey, everybody, when the pandemic hit, right around mid-March, I think we all took a step back. It's like, what are we going to do, right? And I just want to give a shout out to the whole music education profession, right? Because we came together in ways we've never come together. I think some walls came down, some competitive walls came down, and I think that led to more sharing, caring, and collaboration amongst all of us. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody, because I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't want to lose that. So I've been thinking through the pandemic about what we've learned and what we can keep going with, because I think it is an opportunity to grow. And I want to share that I noticed from my students at Lawrence University, so much gratitude for the little things. Yeah, rehearsals were cut to 30 minutes with a 30-minute break. Yeah, we had masks. Yeah, we had in the beginning half the students online, but we found ways to do hybrid rehearsals. And I even had a student come to me and said, Dr. Rao, I hear you're the one that's really enthusiastic about getting a mariachi ensemble started. I said, you're right, I am. He's like, I'd like to start it. And that was so awesome to have a student come to me. So we actually got a mariachi ensemble started at Lawrence University during the pandemic. And it became like the biggest hit at Lawrence. In fact, it was the only live in-person concert the whole year was the mariachi ensemble, which was student-led, which was so cool. In the music education realm, speaking of collaboration, a graduate of Lawrence who now teaches at an international school in Malaysia, at International School Kuala Lumpur, his name's Dan Miles. He reached out to me, said, Matthew, what are you going to do during the pandemic? I said, I don't know. What are you going to do? He said, how about we work together? And you need to know that if somebody uses the word collaborate around me, I'm like a kid in a candy store, like, okay, let's figure it out. Right. And so what happened, he said, I'm going to send you recordings of my students and his high school students and his middle school students. And I want your students to give my students feedback. So it started off as audio to audio feedback. And then he said, you know what, I got some other friends that would be interested in this. So he contacted Chris Ward at the International School of Hong Kong, middle school band director. He reached out to Giovanna in Long Island, New York, who's an orchestra teacher. So my students were giving video to video feedback, audio to audio, written feedback to students. And then the teachers were giving my students feedback on their feedback, as well as me giving feedback. So there's this whole feedback loop. And I realized this is incredible. Why didn't I think of this before? Sometimes it takes a crisis to come up with like an amazing innovation. So I just want to say that the challenge spurred creativity in ways that accelerated creativity in ways that maybe we couldn't have predicted. So when I look back on the gains, those are some of the things I think about.
Wow, the challenge, it accelerated the creativity. I just saw heads nodding. I saw people agreeing, because that's what happened in all of our world, which is so, so cool. Dr. Edgar, my friend, come on in here.
Cameron, thank you so much. The good that has happened from this group alone has just been rock star. Matthew, as you just said, the world got smaller. We have access to people. I know all of us on this call, typically, we're the folks who are called upon to do clinics. We go out and work with high school bands. We go out and we work with middle school bands. That got a lot easier if we can just click on a Zoom. There are a lot of things that I think we want to keep with us from the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of teachers out there who are saying, oh, I just can't wait to get right back at it. And that worries me. That scares me, because I think that there's a lot of things that if we don't bring with us, that we will have missed a really, really important lesson. And I think especially in the world, been there, done that, valued it, the world and the word, Kelvin, as you said, tradition. it goes so deep, especially in college marching band. That tradition is what brings people back, that value. But sometimes those traditions, whether it be in our ensembles, in our world, in our profession, may not be the healthiest. You know, we talked about mental health. Caroline, you talked about downtime being of value for mental health. We talked about flexibility. And Carrie Ann, you use the word kids, and I say it affectionately. Yeah, they're college students, but I still read kiddie books to my students, and they love it. We all have inner kids that we just need to embrace. So, putting that all together, how can we continue to meet the change needs of our students this fall, learning from the last 18 months, keeping what is of value, but reinventing where it's needed? What's one thing you're going to change this fall? Kelvin, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure thing. And I just want to kind of go back a little bit. You mentioned the term tradition, and I mentioned it, but I kind of reframed that word tradition to be legacy, because all traditions aren't good traditions. And I was saying that to be facetious, because here we could do something 2 years in a row and, oh, it's tradition, we have to do it. And it's like, pause. Y'all just did something very recently. And again, so it's more so about the legacy aspect of things. But different for this year for us is the different ways we incorporated technology from a digital perspective via Zoom and procedures and protocols. They just totally streamlined time and effort and convenience, to be quite honest. I could get on a Zoom in my kitchen table versus having to come to the office to do certain things to get the same result on the back end. For us this year that we're going to continue to do, we spent more time than normal talking about and having workshops for our students in regards to diversity, social justice, mental health, equity and inclusion, on top of all the typical things we would talk about in regards to hazing, sexual harassment, bullying, etc. As well also too with safe space training, because so much of this in our program, we march 325. And so it's just a lot of different entities, different political views, different backgrounds, but we're all together through music and band. And while we want to sound great at the game, we want to march well, we don't want to lose sight of we're dealing with people. It's people who make the music, not the music the other way around. So something that's big to me, and we had the opportunity and time to go more in depth this past year because how things were set up, but we're definitely going to continue that even as we plan out our preseason camp, having different speakers in regards to Title IX, what is right, what is wrong, what are procedures, what are protocols. While that has nothing to do with music, in my eyes, it has everything to do with how we make music in a collaborative and hopefully positive dynamic, which also too, and another thing that we kind of take away from last year, we spent a lot more time for the students. And we did this one thing where we had like a sectional feature day, where normally in a season, we're getting ready for the product. Saturday, we gotta get the drill ready, pregame songs, but we took a day where each section just played a certain feature, fanfare, cadence to showcase that to their peers. And that became a huge hit, kind of breaking the monotony of how rehearsal is going to be structured to take this time to appreciate and value your peers. And they took that super serious because they didn't want to flop, if you will, in front of everyone else. So just those kind of days when there's like a 3-week cycle, when we don't have a home game, to kind of break the monotony of things. How can we keep the interest engaged and get the student involvement in what we're doing as well?
Kelvin, I'm going to dig a little deeper with you because I think that this is something that is front and center in so many college directors' minds, but also in the minds of our K-12 teachers. They're looking for opportunities to embed some of these discussions around social justice, of value, of personhood, and how that absolutely is essential for us to wrap our heads around if we're going to come together and have any sense of belonging and trust. So not something that we can ignore for a heartbeat. So my question is, so many people are saying, okay, I get it. It's important. I need to do it. But I also have the nuts and bolts to take care of. I got to get that show on the field for Saturday. I got to take care of getting the concert right. I have an expectation and a job to do. So for you, how do you plan on folding that deck to have that musical excellence still in place while addressing this other necessary side of musicianship?
Yeah, you can't get to truth without trust. Something my pastor says a lot, and I believe that. And the whole Teddy Roosevelt quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I would combat, if someone says, I need to get the product done on Saturday, I would combat that by saying, you won't get the product you're looking for unless you take care, unless those students know how much you really care about that, they may go 90%, but you're not gonna really get to 100 until they're truly vested in that. And that goes back to that truth and trust comment I made initially. So even it's something as simple as taking a few minutes to just talk to your students and being aware of what are some of their things. And it doesn't have to necessarily be specifically social justice. It can be, what are you listening to? What are some of your interests? Like, what is something about you? And having a listening ear. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So being attentive to our students. And then from there, they can correlate into, okay, I know this around this time last year with the George Floyd tragedy and other things going on, like those were just hot topics. And having that space to where people can feel comfortable and open about that, because me being an African-American male, I learned a whole lot about some of my African-American students in our program that was just baffling to me, but it just took a space for tell me what's going on, what are things happening, and it blew my mind as a person that looks like them. And I have blinders too, where there are things in the LGBTQ plus community that I'm just not aware of. I just have my own ignorances and own bias, or not bias, but my own blinders. And so having that space to learn, be open, because personally, I want every student to feel comfortable, regardless if you super conservative, super liberal, super Baptist, whatever. We want to have a safe space for you to feel comfortable and make music together. And hopefully through that, even if you have stark opinions about another person's belief system, you can learn to respect that. We're not saying change your viewpoints, but we will have a space where you're going to respect everyone. And if you can't quite adopt those systems, this program may not be best suited for you. But we don't want it to be, yes, I believe these things and you're all evil. And no, you're going to learn to respect that and move forward. That's how adults operate in life. Not to go on a tangent right now, but all to say, it's important to have that space to develop that safe space before you can move forward from there.
Kelvin, not a tangent. The heart of what we're talking about. It's central to everything we're talking about moving forward and what pieces we're going to bring with us. You know, my dear friend Darlene Machacone in California says safe spaces are important, but brave spaces are more important. That we have brave spaces, that we have courage to have these conversations, because it doesn't happen naturally, but we need that safety. We need that sense of belonging, that sense of identity being valued to even crack a nut to be able to get one step further.
Caroline, can I add one more thing to that, Scott? Sorry. And it's what you just said is so true, because I know like we talk a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but not necessarily being inclusive. Like I could allow people in my office in a part of the room. That don't mean they're really included in the process, right? Like they're just there. But how do we create a dynamic to where people can be brave and feel comfortable to be brave, to really have this inclusive procedure to where I can really be open? And then it's that whole vulnerability thing, which is a whole different topic. But to get to that, so you can really get to the magic of that 100% of musical performance and excellence, in my humble opinion.
A strong, humble opinion. Empowerment and agency are two of the most powerful things that we can have present in our classrooms. Beautifully spoken. Dr. Hand, what's coming with you this fall?
Hey, so I just thought I'd share with everybody an idea that I'm actually stealing from a conference that I was at last week. I attended the Women Band Directors International Virtual Symposium last week, and Marianne Brenneman there, who I'd never met before, she led this beautiful session on mindfulness. And I thought, what a brilliant way to be able to start rehearsals. And it doesn't even take that much time. I can just spend 1 minute. We'll work on our breathing and taking students through some affirmations, some positive like mind shifts, so they can move away from the rest of their day and into the rehearsal space with kind of a fresh mind, if you will. I'm just really excited about implementing that this fall. And I think it's going to be super easy. And I'm looking forward to seeing, as we were talking about mental health, how that might affect mental health in rehearsals.
Caroline, 100%. And the value of mindfulness, of centering, of getting us into the headspace, of being able to approach our task and being able to say, this is what else is going on in my world. Well, we have the incredible privilege to actually have the person who is writing the book on mindfulness in music education in our space today. So when Caroline said that, I was like, Matthew, tag, you're it.
Well, Caroline, I'm so excited that you had that opportunity to experience the power of mindfulness in rehearsal. I get the opportunity to teach mindfulness for the music educator at Vandercook College of Music as their continuing ed master's music ed program, part of that. And so we're on our 4th semester now. And I'm a huge believer in the power of bringing mindfulness into all music education spaces, whether it's pre-K all the way through 12 into the collegiate world. And I've been leading mindfulness practices for over 10 years with my high school band and all the way through the university. And you're right, Caroline, it doesn't take a whole bunch of extra time. In fact, we can just do an exercise right now with everybody online. This is what I call the focus breath. We're going to breathe in our nose for 4 counts and exhale for 4 counts. We're going to do it 3 times together. Here we go. Just relax everything. And in and out. And in and out. And in. Maybe do a rallentando on the last one. Just relax it out and just notice how the space around you has gotten more silent and maybe your awareness has elevated. You might look around your space and notice colors in a more vibrant way, but you'll notice that your focus is much more centered. And to begin rehearsal with a focus breath, it's almost magical. And thank you, Andres. I see that you enjoyed that as well. And I use the focus breath not only at the beginning of rehearsal, but also during at transition points, because oftentimes it's in the transitions when we move from a piece. I'm talking about like in concert band. You can use this in the marching band too. But transitioning to the next piece, we often lose our focus. To bring everybody back with something like the focus breath. Another aspect of mindfulness is our focus on gratitude. Isn't that cool? Mindfulness and gratitude go hand in hand because mindfulness isn't just about breathing and meditation. It's also about our mindset and where we focus our mind. And if we can start to focus on what we appreciate and what we're grateful for, and what we're thankful for, it literally shifts our mind and stimulates and ignites the prefrontal cortex and neocortex, which is so fantastic for us because it allows us to see multiple possibilities. It expands the horizon for solutions and creativity. But raise your hand if you were stressed or had a little anxiety this past 16, 17, 18 months here on the panel. Anybody feel a little stressed? Yeah. Well, you've noticed that actually affects our breathing. And so our emotions and breathing are tied together. When we're stressed out, it's tight and it's short and shallow and loud and irregular, right? You can almost like feel that tension that you may have felt this year. So the pathway to actually changing our emotions to move into that space where we can be at our best, actually you can move there through the breath. Through the breath, because our emotions are tied to our breath. So rather than saying like, hey, I'm really stressed out, stop being stressed, that doesn't work so well. But if you focus on breathing slowly, deep and low, and really breathing through your nose, it's really, really powerful. So using those aspects in rehearsal, focusing on gratitude, heightening awareness, and listening more deeply to each other in rehearsal. And isn't that what we want as humanity, to listen to each other? What a beautiful thing we can teach through music. Thanks, Scott.
I'm just going to kind of be still for a second. Just such recentering, such a space now that it's like, okay, we're ready to continue this discussion. Sometimes we get trapped. We get these stuck emotions. We get these stuck thoughts. And so much of what you just modeled for us is a way. Thank you for actually leading us in the activity. So valuable. Carrie Ann, what's coming with you?
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely the online meeting, that's real. I'm definitely bringing that with me. Listen, I didn't have to buy a plane ticket last year. I didn't have to hop on a train or get on a bus. So first off, our band meetings, like when I need to meet with leadership, when I need to meet with our Greek organizations or whatever, those meetings are definitely going to be online. I don't have to worry about trying to secure a space. I don't have to worry about, can they get across campus on time? Are they off of work or whatever it is they're doing in their life? Everybody can just log on. It definitely saves some time with recruiting. Teachers are now able, they know the technology on how to work online. I was able to, just drop in people's classrooms and do some recruiting. So that definitely helps my budget and my sanity if I don't have to hop on a plane the day before I have a major performance. So the online meeting is definitely something that I'm bringing with me.
Budget and sanity. Oh, I don't know which is more important, but something tells me one doesn't matter if we don't have the other. Thank you so very much. Andreas, I know you're living in a little bit different world, but so many of the lessons that we're experiencing in K-16 through college, it's real life. And I know those are things that you're challenged with. Are there any things that in your world that the Marines are bringing with them, lessons learned that are going to change how you interact with your musicians and your community this fall?
Yes, sir, indeed. And I can share two main points that we bring with us, past the pandemic period. And so we found a way to kind of recalibrate our compass and have a central point of departure for everything we do. And we came up with 7 tenets, the First Marine Division Band, as to why we exist as a military music entity. And please bear in mind that our mission is a dual mission. We deal with the music side of the house, and as Marines also with the combat side of the house as well. And we cannot detach one from the other. So everything we do has to be approached from that angle. So our campaign, so to speak, our 7 basic tenets here deal with, we're here first and foremost to gain the favor of the American people. That's why we're here. We're here to recruit the best and brightest our nation has to offer. We're here to illuminate the success and the potential, the landscape for military music beyond school years. I mean, I went to, I was a high school band director before I joined the military. Dr. Simon, I went to Grambling State University, graduated in 2002. So good to see you here, man. And I auditioned for the Marine Band Field in 2004, and here I am 17 years later, still doing this. We're here also to gain the confidence of the civilian leaders that are in charge of us. We're here to counter the possibility of negative perception on behalf of the American public. And we're here to demonstrate, this is specifically to Dr. Jones' assertion, we're here to demonstrate the highest degree of citizenship. And I believe musicianship and citizenship go hand in hand. They must. So we focus on building better citizens first, in our case, through the medium of music. And the Marine Corps is known for, we strive to be a factory of better citizens. It just happens in my case, we use music to do that. And lastly, we're here to deter the enemy's result. That's the first thing. And second of all, we took a lot of risks, as I mentioned before, going back to the Bat Cave and exploring new ground with ensemble compositions, orchestration, arranging, rehearsal techniques, performance techniques. We really just kind of challenge a lot of our traditions, like Dr. Jones likes to say it, and not turn us into legacies for the sake of longevity. And I would like to say that everything that we bring to the table, folks, really belongs to the American people. And that's perhaps the main thing I want to drive home today. If I understand like you said, sir, my world's a little different, and I get that. But as for those of us who are trying to rebuild the program and find out how do we, become the victors past COVID-19, we're here to help. At the very least, the Marine bands are here to help. And we belong to you guys. You guys pay our paychecks, twice a month. So I think it's fair that you put us to use. How do we fit private instruction, orchestration, ensemble compositions, arrangements, rehearsal techniques, anything that we bring to the table? We have a very broad array of capabilities within the unit, from high school graduates to people with doctorate degrees as well, currently serving in our ranks. And those capabilities belong to everyone here in America and abroad as well. So that's the main thing that we bring with us, sir.
Andreas, thank you for that accessibility. I think that, in our hearts, for those of us who have had the honor of working with military musicians, we know that accessibility. But I think there's some people there that are like, that's the Marine band. I can't ask them to help. And that accessibility at the heart of the value in the mission. Thank you for putting that front and center.
And you must, I may say.
Thank you so much for that, and just really drilling that home. Andreas, just one more question, if you want to dig a little deeper into some of the resources, the tangible resources that the Marines have to offer for us as music teachers and music students.
Yes, sir. So in a subsequent session, or I can send this out separately, but we have 10 different bands stationed all throughout America and abroad as well. From the Marine side of the house, of course, I cannot speak for the services. What the Marines are here to help by way of private lessons, by way of concerts beyond community concerts, by way of clinics we can put on as well, inviting, I've done this many times, invite different schools to come over to our building. We have a whole day of just spending time for the sake of music education. So we do that in all things band. Literally everything that we are here to fight for, and that we believe in the power of music. We believe in the same thing. And we are, again, trained to not just do our job, but also give it back to the community. So all things band. For marching as well, we have a robust marching program. In fact, the preponderance of our commitments are marching commitments. So by way of military position and the like, we're here to help with that as well. And everything from, again, arranging, composing, orchestration, so on and so forth. The sky's the limit here.
Andreas, thank you. And I know we have so many directors, K-16, who are out there who are saying, I'm going to get in touch. I'm going to see where's the closest military group that I can start to build a relationship with, because that's what it's all about. It's about relationships. It's about how do we build relationships and community, and that's when we take off on all fronts. Thank you so much, sir, from the bottom of all of our hearts. You know, so much of what we're talking about right now is hinting at a construct that is huge in the K-12 world, and it's the horse that I ride on left and right. It's called social and emotional learning. And we have one guest with us today, Dr. Melago from Slippery Rock University, who has started to adopt this in music teacher education, that we understand that as these teachers are going out into the field, they need to be aware of ways to help our students really work through some of these life challenges. And there's some skills that we can embed into our music classroom to help with that. So Dr. Melago, can you talk a little bit about how you've utilized SEL as a way to navigate through some of these challenges and planning a path forward?
Well, and as Scott knows, this is a newer thing for me. And what happened was spring of 2020, my field students were out. Well, they were just about to go out right after spring break, and the student teachers were out, and then the pandemic hits. And it was shocking to me to see just how huge and almost like life-stopping the struggle was for some of the students, and just how differently different students responded. And it wasn't something that, you know, normally if a student teacher's struggling, it's like, hey, you know, let's meet at Starbucks and we'll talk about what's going on, or, you know, something like that. Well, you can't get together with the other person, you know, during the pandemic. And so I emailed Scott and I'm like, I read your book like 2 years ago, but now like, I get it right now. I get it. And it reminds me of, if you've seen the musical Come From Away, right toward the beginning, there's a song and they start singing, you are here at the edge of a moment. And I really think that moment for me was the time when when social emotional learning started to really make sense. And so some things that we've changed, and again, this is all new. I certainly am not somebody who's been doing this for a long time, but I've started looking at basically the freshman year as we need to focus on helping the students build their own SEL competencies, where like the senior year, the focus is more on, let's work on strategies to build SEL skills in our future students and the students' future students. And then the years in between kind of change over from more focused on this individual pre-service music educator to more focused on how they'll work with their future students. So that's been something fun that I've worked on this year. And I keep having more ideas of ways to incorporate that into the work, but it's so important. And we found that out really abruptly with the pandemic, but being able to respond to any of life's crises, because certainly there are going to be more, is really important. So one other thing that we did, I'll just make this really quick, but on campus, we actually now have, it's a faculty learning community, and it's just a group of faculty from all over campus, strangers, we don't even know each other, but we started last semester to get together and meet and talk about ways that we can integrate SEL into all of our different programs. And it's interesting to see the thoughts from, you know, a science program, or, you know, elementary ed and all of that. And I'm excited that I'll be facilitating one of those groups again in the fall. So I just think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that's something I'm looking forward to coming out of the pandemic.
Kathy, beautiful. Thank you. And whether it be Matthew approaching it from mindfulness or Kelvin approaching it from tradition to legacy, as Andreas so eloquently put, or we call it SEL, we need to do the dirty work ourselves. You know, as adults, we need to wrap our heads around what we've been through so that we can help serve in a capacity to facilitate moving forward. Such a powerful progression that we're all on this journey together. Cameron, back to you, my friend.
Absolutely. You know, what's so cool is that Music for All is a family. And I'm just sitting here like my heart is full, just looking on this screen and taking all of this wisdom in. And I got to be honest with you, Dr. Edgar, I can't write it all down fast enough. Like I tried, I gave up. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back and watch the replay. It's just so good. And to see the collaboration just here, I can't wait. Like I'm looking forward so much to the opportunity to sing all of you in person and to just be able to share and exchange in that way. But you know what? I know that there's a place where we have to be honest. There's some colleagues that we know of that are really having a hard time. Even now, talking to high school directors and college directors, just trying to figure out the new landscape. I would love an opportunity for my friends on this panel to give a word of encouragement to those colleagues as we move forward for the profession, a word of encouragement of how we move forward. I would love to start with my friend Andreas and then go to my friend Dr. Spurlin. What is a word of encouragement that you would give music educators? Andreas?
Music lives. It's pretty simple. I have two colleagues that did this 2 days in a row, 72 hours ago, and I was able to stand there for yesterday's session. It is clear to me that at the very least in this setting, we're fighting for music education. Music is relevant, it is necessary. And what's happening right now is an indication that we're still fighting and we will be victors, period. That's all I say. Music lives, keep fighting. Thank you.
So good, my friend. Dr. Sperlin, my friend, what would you say?
Well, I think that, obviously everyone's situation is a little bit different. And so we all have, especially in the college realm, feel like we serve many masters, whether it's, athletic department, coaches, administrators, academic administrators, right. People that high school directors, whatever we try to recruit from. And I think in these circumstances, the best thing we can do is figure out what is best for the student and what gives them the very best experience, especially after all that we've dealt with. There are certainly things that are out of our control, and I think that dwelling on those things really negatively impacts all facets of our lives, including the things that we can control. And to me, what we teach our students, the things we can control are our attitude and our effort. And if we're negatively thinking about things we can't control, then that does affect that. And I would say during these times, I've heard this statement quite a bit, talking to friends or others, where they'll say, it is what it is. Well, that's not always the case. And sometimes I hear people saying that statement about things they can't control. And I think that's what we need to avoid because sometimes they make that statement without really making an effort or asking the additional question, what can be done in this situation to make it better for our program, for our students? So I would say, let's not allow these circumstances to drive us or our programs into sort of irreversible states of apathy because, some people believe that's the new pandemic and we want to avoid that. I think that you will find that our students are eager for purpose, expectation, structure, accountability, the things that they had before. And yes, we have to take into account that some have lost loved ones or suffered great change in their lives, but I also think that purpose moving forward helps them deal with the struggles that they've had. And so that's my bit of advice. Let's be passionate about what we can control and share that with their students. And I think that it can do nothing but benefit them long term.
Oh, that's so good, my friend. Absolutely. Would love to hear that word of advice, that word of encouragement from Dr. Simon and then Dr. Hand. What would you say, my friend? Dr. Simon, what would you say?
One thing that I always want to try and tell people is, we wouldn't get into this profession if we didn't care about our students. We genuinely care about our students. We bend over backwards to give our students what they need. Oftentimes, we forget about ourselves. And that's one thing I always try and make sure, and I tell people, always make sure you take care of yourself, because it was a point in time in my career where I did have burnout. And I had burnout because I'm trying to take care of everybody else, and I wasn't taking care of myself. What worked for me is I found me a different outlet. I have a non-band outlet that has nothing to do with music, because that's what works for me. I encourage people to find an outlet, find something to where you can take care of yourself, because broken glasses can't hold water. So you have to take care of you so you can take care of them.
That's so good. Dr. Hand, my friend, how would you encourage us?
I think I'm framing this it's similar things to what people have said, maybe framed in a different way. I have my conducting students do this every year, and I invite all of you to do it. I do it with my students as well. And you don't have to share it with anybody. It's just for your personal viewing. But ask these 4 questions of yourself. Who am I? What is at my core? What do I believe in? And who will I become? I stole these from my mentor, Eric Wilson at Baylor University. And I think that within those answers, probably as Dr. Simon said, a lot of us will find that we love music, we love our students, we love teaching, amongst other things. But I think within all the noise of this year, centering into what are your values can provide you some guidance with how to move forward.
That's so good, my friend. That's a book by itself. I mean, right there. That is huge. Dr. Melago and then Dr. Arau, what are you saying as encouragement to the profession?
I want to build on what Dr. Simon just said. And I think there has to be priority on work-life balance. And, I'm preaching to myself, also on that for sure. And it's summer and we're all here, and everyone who's listening to this from home. We love what we do, and it's so easy to just keep doing it and to not stop and do the other things that are life-giving. And sometimes you think well, I can just give this response to this email. It's only going to take a few minutes. Then you see another email in there. And then now there's an email you don't like in there. And now your mood is destroyed and you shouldn't have been in there in the first place. So one of the things, I want to try to emphasize work-life balance for myself, but also for my students, making sure they're prioritizing things. And I think every time we work when, we shouldn't be, and that's going to be different for everyone, depending on what your job is. Certainly, if you're a college marching band director, Saturday is probably not a day you're going to be able to take off, right? But every time we're working when we really maybe shouldn't be, we're making that the norm for our profession. So I'm going to try to tell myself, the choice to turn off the email is actually smart and helping everyone. That's the good thing to do, because answering the email is perpetuating that everyone always has to be working all the time. Instead, when we take that little break, we're actually doing something good for the profession. When we take the time for things for ourselves, we're doing good for the profession. I'm trying to tell myself that, so I believe it, and so that I will do it. And I'm telling other people so they will hold me accountable. But I think that the work-life balance is something I'd encourage everyone to take a look at coming out of the pandemic.
That's so good. Dr. Rao.
Hey, just beautiful reminding comments. And I'm with you, Dr. Melago, on that. I preach this, but it's easier to preach it than to practice it, isn't it, sometimes? And I think as music teachers, as musicians, we've worked hard to get to where we are. I mean, undergraduate music college was not easy, was it, for anybody? And we worked our tails off. Student teaching, that was the most emotional, hardest experience probably of life, right? And then we had our first year of teaching. It was oh my God, I didn't think it could get more difficult, right? And then the pandemic happened, and we've certainly put a lot of pressure on ourselves, I think. And we've certainly experienced a lot of anxiety and feelings of, is this the right profession for me? I think burnout is real. And what I just want to share is give yourself grace. Give yourself grace and extend the same grace to others. And I think if we can talk to our students about this up front, this is what I did at Lawrence from the very beginning. Just, hey, I'm going to extend grace, but give me some grace too. I'm not going to be perfect. We're all going through this together. And this fall, there's still going to be some challenges. We're not out of this just yet. And we don't know where the future is going to go. And as some panelists have said, there's going to be more challenges along the way. So whatever does come in our pathway, give ourselves grace, but remember your sense of purpose and our why. Sometimes we do. We forget to just be. And we're human beings, not human doings. And I think as music educators, we need to remind ourselves that we need to have space for being, because it's in that space where creativity happens, where rejuvenation happens, where we do maybe glue that broken glass that Dr. Simon talked about and patch up our bucket, because that's what we need to be doing this summer, to refill our bucket so that we have more to give our students and so that we can extend our soul and our expression and our heart so that we're open for connection and creating vulnerability, sense of belonging, because what we do matters, period. Music matters more now than ever. We need connection more than ever. So what you do as a music educator is truly at the summit of what we need as human beings in society. So I know it's been a tough time, but stay with it, because what you do makes a difference.
That's so good, my friend. And I want to encourage, my little piece is to encourage everybody to share this video. Like if you just heard this last hour, it's so good. To land us up, Dr. Jones, we need a word of encouragement from you, my friend, for the profession. And then Dr. Edgar, we want to hear from you, my friend. Dr. Jones?
Yeah, it's a lot of great stuff. I'm over here taking notes myself here. My big one is just, it's just part of me, just be thankful. We're able to do what we do. And my wife hates when I tell this story, but it's the truth. Like my wife's a nurse practitioner, and she has to go to work every day. And what she does is very important. You know, she's dealing with the elderly and sickly. I get to go to work and make music. And yes, there are vehicles, you have to go around, different things, but it's not life or death. You know, it's shaping a phrase, it's getting a certain formation together, but that's freakishly cool to me. I get geeked out, excited. That's my high. And we get to do that, regardless if you had to do it 6 feet away last year or virtually. Like, that's what we get to do and cherish those small things. Like, there was a situation here last week where our local community found out the band wasn't going to the first game of the year, and it's like uproar. But it's like, we get to perform at home. We get to perform on the field. We get to go to other away games. Like, while I understand that that's unfortunate, we have all these other positive things that we didn't get a chance to do last year. And I would like to focus on that. How do we get back to this kind of thing? Because the normal is not going to be normal. The old normal is not going to be the current one. It's going to be different. But how can we still create experiences that are long lasting for our students and ourselves? Sometimes it's easy to get lost in the sauce. So just cherish the small things. We get to do something that is freakishly cool. I think it's one of the coolest things we do on earth. I love my wife, but my job is way cooler than hers. So it's just be thankful and cherish those positive things we get to do.
I won't tell her that you said that, but we're good to go. You know, but that's really interesting, that I want to work in a profession that every single person thinks that their world and their job is the most important. If we all approach that, yes, my job is the most important job in the world. Yes, do I want the science teacher to say that their job's the most important in the entire world? 100%. That's when we all achieve purpose and passion. You know, I've been listening to a new album lately, and it's been just a powerful message. It's by Diana Krall, for those of you who enjoy jazz, and her new album is called Turn Up the Quiet. And those words just resonated with me so deeply, and I'm hearing this in so many of our comments today, that for our students, for our college students who are going through this whirlwind, thinking that this is the time that they have to get it all done, for us, this work-life balance. Kathy, I know I email you, and I know you respond at midnight, so I'm holding you accountable to that email statement, that we all, I think, just need to find a time to turn up the quiet a little bit, that we need to find a time to take a deep breath and to say that we do need to mend those broken glasses. We need to fill that bucket before we can fill it up with water. So many important things. Before we sign off today, I want to express my gratitude to both my friend and brother Cameron, for all of our friends at Music for All. I want to thank the Marines for their support of this entire series, especially Andreas. Thank you so much for your invaluable contributions today. I want to thank the Yamaha Corporation, our national presenting sponsor. We applaud your commitment to all music educators. On behalf of Cameron and for everyone at Music for All, I'm Scott Edgar. Thank you so much and be well. Bye-bye.